Lesson 5. Ever feel like you're wearing a mask just to get through the day? What if that mask is hiding the very key to your transformation? Jung called the persona, the mask we wear in public, our social self, crafted to gain approval or hide vulnerability. When we over-identify with the persona, we forget who we truly are. Jung described it as the persona is a compromise between the individual and society as to what a man should appear to be. So ask yourself, is this what I truly feel or what I think society wants? A lot of people take a certain education or do stuff simply because they have been indoctrinated into thinking that is what society or their peers view as successful. Maybe you went into law, medicine, or other high-prestige educational institutions without asking if it was truly what you wanted, not just what society had pulled over your head. So really ask yourself, is it you who wants this? Or is it something that has been put in your head? Is it something you're doing for respect, for money, something outside you? Or is it something that is really coming from deep within you? The ego is the center of your conscious identity. The I that thinks, acts, and chooses. The shadow is the unconscious, the parts of yourself your ego refuses to acknowledge. The ego often builds itself by suppressing whatever it deems unacceptable. That repressed content becomes the shadow. Meanwhile, the shadow is the part of ourselves we repress, the impulses, fears, desires, and traits we deem unacceptable. So what are the signs of the shadow? Some of the signs are overreacting emotionally, being judgmental, and projecting onto others. The shadow loves using projection because it avoids confronting itself if it can project it out into the world, what it believes to be wrong. We do projection when we attribute or disown traits to other people. Why does it happen? Well, it is because the ego can't handle certain truths, so it throws them outside of us to protect the shadow. Calling someone arrogant while ignoring your own hidden pride can be a good example of the shadow in action. Hating liars when you yourself are hiding truths can be another example of the shadow at play. Seeing evil in others to avoid facing your own darkness, again, another example of the shadow. Every time you react strongly to somebody else being something, then you have to really ask, what part of me is really disgusted by this? What part of me is angry about this? And oftentimes you will find a projection, and that projection leading back to your own shadow. So what are the signs of projection? Strong emotional reactions, judgmental thoughts that feel righteous, everyone else is the problem thinking, irrational fears of fixation on certain personality types. Ask yourself, is what I see in them really mine, and why does this bother me so much? Every time you get angry at someone, ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? Why? I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to be whole, and that is why asking these kind of questions are important, because they lead back to you. And what you have to really think about is, if you repeat the question, why, 5 times in a row, you will realize so much about yourself that you're not even prepared to admit it. So ask, why are you angry at that person? Okay, it's because this and that, these qualities, then ask, why does these qualities make you angry? It is because of this and that experience. Then ask yourself, why? What does this experience lead back to? And if you continue that long enough, you'll come to realize a lot about yourself. So remember, every time you can ask why 5 times in a row, you're going to realize so much about yourself you wouldn't believe it. So, again, I'll repeat it. I don't want you to be perfect. I want you to be whole. Wholeness is very different from perfect. When we're whole in ourselves. We don't want anything. When we're perfect, we're striving for something. But I think being whole is a more ideal outcome than being perfect. So, you should notice your shadow patterns, what annoys you in the outside world. And meanwhile, when speaking of the ego is not the enemy per se, but it must be trained. The ego defends your current identity, but growth requires cracking that shell. You must shift from ego dominance to ego awareness. Let me say that again. You must shift from ego dominance to ego awareness. Ego must become servant to the highest self, not its master. Ego must become servant to the higher self, not its master. You must do mindful confrontation, like I said before. Why? Ask why 5 times in a row. When emotions rise, simply ask, what does this say about me? What does this part want? Your greatest enemy might be your greatest mirror. Let's just repeat that again. Your greatest enemy might be your greatest mirror. It is the same for things that annoy you. Sometimes what annoys you is the greatest mirror for what you care about. So really notice these things. By taking back your projections, you reclaim your power. The ego says, I am this. The shadow says, you're also that. The persona says, I want you to believe this about me. And wholeness says, you are all and more. Truth is, you must learn to notice when each part of you speak. Let's just repeat that. You must learn to notice when each part of you speak. That's a very different view from you just being one self. When you have all these psychological elements within you, you realize that every thought is not necessarily yourself. You realize there's one higher self, and there's the ego, and there's the persona, and there's the shadow. And there's also another concept called the animate and animus, I'll explain later, and some archetypes. But you realize that you are not necessarily what you're thinking, unless that thinking is the highest self. So that's really what I want you to take away from this. You're not always what you're thinking. So let's go back to this. The persona wants to be liked by everyone. The ego wants to identify with everything as itself. The shadow wants to project all it believes wrong with ourselves over to others, so we don't become aware of our own flaws. As I said before, the shadow is really the ego's way of hiding everything in the subconscious of what it finds disagreeable about itself. And the persona is a way to protect ourselves and try to shape the idea in others' heads, so we get them to like us, so we get their approval, so we get all these things from the outside world. The goal is to integrate and notice all these parts while striving for the higher self, that quiet and moral and divine voice that is our true self, our capital self, with a big S. Your subconscious is always trying to tell you things, either through dreams, what annoys you, or how you wish others to see you. To achieve the higher self, you must look deep within yourself, in your past for many months, and really break everything down. Analyze your persona, analyze your shadow, analyze your ego, and attempt to heal your past. This won't be an easy journey, but identifying each voice within you will help you make better choices and live in accordance with your higher self. you must start your journey towards what Jung called individuation. I have touched lightly on Jungian psychology in this beginner series, only giving you what you need for now. In the future, I'll give you much more, but know this lesson. If you truly understand it, will last you months. When I first did this lesson myself, it took me over 60 pages to really dwell into everything. So start writing down, what is my shadow, the parts I repress? What is my persona, the mask I wear? What is my ego, the part of me constantly needing to identify? Peeling back those layers will help you identify your higher self and a subject I'll later touch on called the inner child and synchronicity. But for now, focus on these essentials: the persona, the shadow, and the ego, and the higher self. Just know whenever you get angry, the interesting thing is not what you get angry at, but what it reveals about your journey and your emotional triggers. Emotional triggers are wonderful things because they will tell you exactly what you are. You just have to ask why 5 times in a row. But the problem with most people is they don't do that. They don't learn the lesson. They just gently let things flood over them like a wave, and then they take the next wave and the next wave and the next wave, and they're really drowning, and they never ask why. They just keep drowning. So really, ask why 5 times in a row. Ask about the shadow, the persona, the ego, and the higher self. Find those things within yourself. Learn which voice is which and how to identify it. Write everything down. Go deep into your past. Go deep into your dreams if you have to. Go deep into everything. Really write everything down. Really observe everything and find commonalities to what influence you. I hope this video was helpful for you. If you want the next one in this 12-part series, feel free to subscribe now. And there's already many other lessons for you to watch on the channel. Take care out there.